Hello there, and welcome once again to Story Time. I am just going to take my screen away so I'm not looking at myself while I'm talking. And I'm sure you can see this lovely, gorgeous, bohemian living space behind me. Aren't I lucky to have such a wonderful home? I'm sure you're aware this is actually a virtual background. It's not my house. I wish it was. Anyway, I am here today to discuss more about the story in the village. Is this actually recording? It's not telling me it is. Yes, it is recording. Okay. Yes, the village story, the story. I've had a lot of people asking me if I could comment on the upcoming chapters where there is this big event taking place in our fictional novel. And that is the banana competition. And we've been talking about the upcoming banana competition for quite some time. We knew that this chapter would eventually be written for us to be able to read. We're writing the novel together. Thank you for everyone contributing towards this creative writing exercise. And I hope those who read the novel will enjoy it. So yes, there is a big competition coming up in the village. It is the banana competition, and the two main individuals, fae characters that are entering this competition are Stormfire Gnome and Camelina, who is a witchy gnome, let's say. So we have a witchy gnome and a Stormfire gnome, and they are entering this banana competition, and all the fae are waiting with bated breath to see what happens. So we don't know at this point what is going to happen with this competition. We have several individuals writing the novel. And so we need to gather together all of the different ideas that the creative writers are putting forward and look at all the potential different storylines that we can create to make this novel interesting for the readers. And then we will choose the outcome, and that is the outcome the readers will be reading. So at this point, that hasn't occurred. We haven't chosen the final publication yet for the novel play out. So there are four potential ways we could take this storyline, four potential different chapters. So let's have a think. As creative writers, how should we allow this story to unfold? So we have Camelina, the witchy gnome. Now, there are four potential main storylines with other offshoots from those storylines. So each storyline that we create for this next chapter will have different outcomes coming off from that. What is so interesting is, as we go further into the novel, the outcome is actually the same. There are four main storylines, but whichever storyline we choose to write into the novel, once we get further into the novel, the outcome is the same. So it's just like, which pathway are we going to take to get to that part of the novel? And whilst I say the outcome is the same, different expressions of the same thing, let's say. So the novel will be written slightly differently. So we've got four potential endings here, let's say. So the first one, Camelina, is the witchy elf. So she could, let's say, win the banana competition. Now, the only way that Camelina could do this is for her team of witches and warlocks and demons and overlords and vampires, because that's the kind of world she lives in. That team would have to swap the squares. The squares would have to be swapped from red to blue. And that is the only way that Camelina could actually be declared the winner of the banana competition. So just as the last banana competition, That is what happened. And this created a bifurcated situation where you had a false banana, top banana, and you had a true and genuine top banana in the background. So we need to be aware that Stormfire Gnome has been the true top banana behind the scenes for the whole of the last 4 sections of time since the last competition. He was the real competition winner last time, but that was not what was declared to the Fae. So this could occur again. Now, this is going to be more difficult for the Dark team, let's say, the Overlord team, to do this in the novel, because the Fae are throwing lots of not black squares. The Fae are throwing. I think the Dark team are throwing black squares, definitely. The Fae are throwing lots of red squares into the air. So this is how they play the banana game. They choose a square and they throw it into the air, and then up it goes to be counted by the cloud counters who count the squares. So last time there were lots of red squares thrown up into the air, and then the dark clouds were able to change them into blue squares and throw them into the counting cloud, and the counting cloud decided the blue squares are the highest amount, but really they should have been red. This time there's far more red squares being thrown up into the clouds, much more, and there were a lot last time, and there are so many this time that we are obviously talking about the US domain, that the US domain is very predominantly a red square world now. Also, because there's so much awareness on the situation with the last banana competition, those eyes on that awareness does make the dark magic difficult to achieve. There's scrutiny, if you will, intense scrutiny upon the situation. So that's one potential play out, one potential chapter that we can write into the novel. Can Camelina achieve the banana position in this competition without any swapping of the squares? No, that's not possible. So it has to be a square swap in order to get the number one play out to occur in this next chapter. Okay, so the second potential, which is, this one has a fairly high probability, and a higher probability than the first one, actually, but none of these are in a situation. There are 4 main chapters, 4 main storylines, but none of these have an extremely high probability with all the others being low. They're all fairly kind of even. So it is incredibly difficult for the storytellers to work out which storyline to put into the novel at this point. But option 2, storyline 2, this has a higher probability. And what this is, and this was one that's been planned for a long time. This one was planned right back at the time of the last competition. That's how long this one has been in play. And there were several different plans and plots to this one. One was to bring in Camelina through the back door 2 or 3 years ago, at least 2 years ago in the novel, but that didn't happen in the way that would be seen by the Fae that are paying attention and not really understanding what's going on behind the scenes. So what was presented to the whole village was that Bebop was the top banana and Camelina was in the second position. But there was a plan to switch that, but that didn't occur. They let Bebop continue on. So, things change. Everything is occurring in real time. Plans don't always manifest because there are other plans. There's always a plan A, plan B, plan C. within both sides of this polarity, if you will. So the second option is that there is a last minute switch. And what I mean by that is Camelina in some way drops out at the last minute of the banana competition, and somebody else who is also on her team, but somebody more powerful within that dark structure, would step in. So that was a plan for a long time. Camelina is unaware of that plan. And that's how they sometimes play it. So they have members of their own team that don't know what some of the plans and plots are. So it becomes very real when that particular fae or elemental being reacts publicly, because they're really reacting, because they didn't know. And so there was this energetic around Camelina of betrayal, anger, disappointment, and betrayal by her own team, which I was seeing, within the storylines right back at the last competition. Now, the first option, if Camelina is declared the top banana, the winner of the top banana competition, and that's achieved by swapping squares, by the cloud switching the red to the blue. This causes major repercussions for a long time. Looking at option 2, with Camelina dropping out at the last minute and someone else that holds more power within that dark structure stepping in, and I'm feeling female, that also causes major repercussions. So as you can see, these major repercussions that occur with all of these 4 options lead to a very similar outcome down the line that will perhaps be just a different play out because of the initial catalyst. So the moment of the top banana competition in the novel is a catalyst. It's a catalytic point. And it is, within this particular play out, the first domino to fall of a series of dominoes. Obviously, we have multiple dominoes falling all the time at the moment in the novel, but this is a new section of dominoes. And regardless of the outcome, a domino falls and creates these repercussions. No matter what happens, there is a domino, and that domino will fall on the day of the competition or around that time, and that triggers multiple dominoes falling. And wherever those dominoes fall, it's the same outcome at the end of the domino line, but they are presented in different ways depending on which storyline we choose in the novel. So, storyline 3, Stormfire genuinely wins the competition and is declared top banana. Now, I was told in a dream, when I was dreaming about the novel quite some time ago, that if this eventuality occurs, and in that dream I was with Stormfire and I was watching the banana results playing out on this big screen on the wall, and there was a count. The clouds were counting the squares, and then the count stopped, just like last time. So everyone's waiting with bated breath. Is this count going to occur the same way as it did last time? And then when we see the new count, it's going to be a blue count instead of a red count. So everyone's waiting. And then the count starts again, and it's a real count, and it's a red count, and Stormfire does win. That was in the dream that I had a year or 2 ago. I'm sure I did a video about that. Yes, I did. It's where the representative from the higher dimensions comes in as a sort of a medical type of person, and there were these bottles in strange shapes and Stormfire was talking to me about the bottles, and I asked if you could write in and tell me what your thoughts were about that dream, and I had loads of emails. That's the dream I'm talking about. So if we're looking at that as a play out, one of the things that was said by this higher dimensional representative is, this is when the work really begins. This is where the work really starts. So if you think there's been work to do up until this point, that's been a precursor. If Stormfire wins, that's when the work really starts, because what would happen here is there would be movements against Stormfire that may not look like they're movements against Stormfire. It may look like it's movements against the whole village, but it's because the position of Top Banana is so crucial going forward that neither polarity, and I'm talking about a balance of positive and negative here, neither polarity can go forward into this spiritual placement of reality. Some may know this as a harvest, completion, planetary end times, ascension, and all the pathways with that. Neither polarity within a third dimensional setup can go forward in the way that they would want to go forward without holding a Top Banana position. And that's where both polarities are now. However, neither polarity at this point, and I'm not talking about the universal energy, I'm talking about the third dimensional individuals representing the two polarities. Neither of them realize at this point that the outcome is the same, but it does play out differently to get there. So there would be major repercussions towards and against Stormfire, but in the long term, this domino that falls and then creates all these further falling dominoes, this is a smoother ride. So there are repercussions, major repercussions, just like option 1, just like option 2, but there is a smoother ride in this domino fall, and the reason being is the Fae are invested in this outcome. The Fae will be supporting this outcome. The Fae will be a team behind Stormfire supporting the way forward, whereas option 1 and option 2 are not supported by the Fae on an overall majority level. It's that's they are outcomes supported by the Dark Overlord team. Okay, so we now have option 4, which at the moment looks as though it's the higher probability of the 4, but as I said, none of these are massive probabilities while the others are lower probabilities. So it is very difficult at this point to decide on the storyline for the chapter. So I'm not going to decide on that probability storyline for the chapter. I will say at the moment, this option 4 appears to have a higher probability, but it's marginal. And that is that the banana competition is actually cancelled or postponed because of a big reason. Now, this could be, and what seems to be the most likely potential for why there is a cancellation, and there are multiple different reasons for the cancellation. I mean, this could be connected to option 2, where Camelina drops out and nobody steps up, and that person waiting in the wings with a higher power doesn't step forward. And that could create this. But the most probable reason is some kind of created environmental disaster occurring within the village. This would cause major repercussions. So this is sitting as the most likely outcome at this point, but this is by not any means is it a definite. They're all fairly even probabilities, really, with this one being slightly more of a majority. So I am not going to decide at this point which one I think we will choose as the storyline for the next chapter. We need to go through this chapter and read all of the different outcomes before we decide. And it could be sort of around November 5th time and the days after November the 5th before we actually choose which storyline we're going to put into the next chapter of the novel. So that's the four main storylines. But I'd like to draw your attention to a dream that Gloria Love, our protagonist in the novel, had, that she felt was very, very real. It was so real that she truly believed she was in the dream. Even when she was told by her higher guidance system that she was dreaming, she still had to question her higher guidance system if that was actually true, because it was so real and her emotions were responding to this being a very real situation. Before I tell you Gloria's dream, please be aware that we mustn't take the dream as literal or any part of the dream as literal, because this dream could all be metaphor. This could all be Gloria Love's subconscious playing out multiple different things, including personal situations mixed with global, as dreams are. However, there could indeed be literal components to the dream. And Gloria's guidance system have always taught her to deliver the vision or the message as it is and allow others to come up with their own interpretation. And that is what a channel or a medium should do. Gloria Love, as a channel or medium, as a pixie in the story, a fairy pixie hybrid, this is what she does. So the messages, the visuals, the images are given to the group, the collective, for them to utilize that as a tool, not telling them. So if I were to dream of I was going to say banana, that's far too symbolic at this point. If I was to dream of a vase of flowers, I could say to you, I dreamt of a vase of flowers. And what that means is you're all going to be given flowers. Somebody's going to buy you a bunch of flowers within the week. That's what's going to happen. Now, that the vase of flowers is a genuine message coming from a decoding of reality within an individual who is able to open up to those dimensions and decode reality that comes in visually, comes in picture form, visual form, image form. But the interpretation is a different utilization or skill set, if you will, for that individual that received the genuine vision. So to actually say you're all going to be given a bunch of flowers within a week is a subjective interpretation of what should be objective. So it's far better for me to say, I have dreamt of a vase of flowers, and you decide. Or I turn to my guides, the 9, and say to them, what does this bunch of flowers mean? And get some more objective information from that perspective. So that's what I'm going to do here with this dream that Gloria Love had. Give this to you. I can give you my interpretation, and I can even speak to the 9. But ultimately, this dream is for you, just like the vase of flowers is for you to decide, because you are at the levels of awakening that you need to be at to be able to decode these images and these dreams and these visuals and these symbols yourself. We're still recording. So this is the dream. So, and this will go in the novel and will be like a sub chapter within the banana competition, because there is a connection on a more village-wide level. But the reason why there's a connection is because the banana competition is this pivotal point for both polarities within the 3rd dimension and where we are going in the future. So in this dream, Gloria Love was in a house That's an ambulance just went past just as I start talking about this dream. That's interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it's a siren here in the UK. We have ambulances and police cars and fire engines. And so the siren is a warning. It is a warning. Just as I started to begin to tell you about the dream, the ambulance went past. So there you have another symbol. This is a warning dream, let's say. Okay. Gloria was in a house with an elite family. They called themselves an elite ruling family. Gloria was friends with the daughter and also the mother. The mother appeared to be the head of the family within this particular family. Gloria was friends with the daughter and the mother. She was not afraid. She was not worried to be around them, but she was cautious and wary, interested, and not one of them. However, she was with them at this time in the dream. So they were talking to her and they were saying that they are an elite ruling family and they are controlling the scene, the play out within the village. They are controlling that from behind the scenes. That's what their family does. That's why it's an elite ruling family, because they see themselves as the rulers of the village. They said, whenever something is going to happen, they get the nod. So somehow they are told something's going to happen. This is so that they can be aware of it and they can stay out of the way, or just so they know that it's their family that has created this thing. They said they were happy to have me there. They wanted to talk to me. They wanted to share their feelings with me. And they said, sorry, with Gloria, it was Gloria that had the dream, because this is a story dream. This is a fictional dream in the story. So Gloria has the dream in the novel. Sorry, I said me, but I've had similar dreams, and so sometimes I can get confused between my actual dreams and Gloria's fictional dreams. Okay, so clearing that up. They said, we can learn as much from you as you can from us. They said this to Gloria. So they were happy to have Gloria there because she was in some way a teaching tool for them. And Gloria felt they were a teaching tool for her, almost as though, and I don't want to interpret too much, but my interpretation would be that the positive service to others faction can learn from the negative service to self faction, and vice versa. The service to self learn from the positive service to others. In this scenario, it's a learning, a two-way learning. They said some big event is happening. It's either happening now or it's about to happen, but no one knows when it will happen. And no one knows how it will affect everyone because it's an experiment. It is an experiment. But they had been given the nod that this thing was happening. So it was their belief, their perception that it was their family that had created this happening, but the family themselves don't know when it's going to happen. And they don't know how it will affect everyone because it's an experiment. It's completely unknown. And that is why the service to self could learn from the service to others and vice versa, because nobody knows anywhere how this is going to play out because it's an experiment. They said that their family had created this event, this happening, but they utilized natural cycles and natural events to create this thing. So it's partly natural and partly created because they created it but utilizing natural cycles. And when I spoke to the nine afterwards, because I want to get this dream right before we put this in the novel. When I spoke to the nine, I said, "Oh, can you give me some kind of example? What do you mean that they created something using natural cycles and natural events?" And they showed me, they reminded me of another dream that I had, which I've also put into a video. So if you've been watching my updates, there was a dream that I had, and I'm pretty sure I asked for people to email me with their thoughts on this one as well. Or so, I certainly had several emails in about this dream, but this is where there was this fish, and this fish was giving birth to a baby fish. But there were these like parasitical creatures and a baby snake, and the baby snake was waiting at the end of the where the fish was about to give birth with its mouth open, ready to catch the new baby fish and eat it, because all it saw it as was food. The parasitical entities, snake-like entities, were somehow manipulating the contractions in the fish to make her give birth quicker to feed this snake. Do you know, it was the most horrible dream. Really affected me badly. Anyway, the point I'm making is the nine was showing me that the fish was giving birth naturally. The fish would have given birth naturally if the fish had been left alone. But it might have taken a lot longer, and there would have been a different outcome because the baby fish would have lived, because there would have been no snake waiting to eat it. The parasitical entities were manipulating the natural contractions, and they were causing these contractions to work faster, more rapidly, more intensely, and very unnaturally, very artificially. And the outcome was that the fish was eaten by the snake. So it's an inversion and a manipulated artificial aspect of something that would have been natural anyway. That's what they're trying to say in the dream, and the nine showed me that image to explain this. So there is a natural cycle, a natural event, and this would play out naturally anyway, but it's being manipulated in the fictional novel, in this particular story, to make it faster, more intense and different. And nobody knows the outcome because it's an experiment. Even those that created it don't know how it's going to play out. They're waiting with bated breath to discover the outcome. So that's the next thing they said. So, and then Gloria said, I've got notes here because this was, do you know, it was such an epic dream. When Gloria woke up, she sat up in her bed and put her pillows behind her so she could sit up, and literally just sat there, just in silence. Like, wow, what was that? It was a profound dream that needed integration and analysis. And obviously after Gloria had thought about the dream for a while, she then wrote the dream down, because obviously dreams are easy to forget as you go through the day and the next day and the next day, and more imprints and memories come into your consciousness and you have more dreams. So she took notes. So yes, but this is a fictional dream in the fictional novel. Okay, so Gloria said to the elite family, predominantly she's speaking to the daughter and the mother's the head of the family. Gloria said, are you the group known as the Alliancey, or are you the group known as the Illumined Naughties? Which one are you? I mean, if you're a ruling elite family and you are orchestrating humanity from behind the scenes, are you Alliancey or Illumined Naughties? Which one? Well, they didn't understand this. They didn't understand these words. These words meant nothing to them. And they just said, we don't think in those terms. Alliancy, illumined, naughties, meaningless to them, irrelevant. They just simply don't think in those terms. So Gloria said, what I'm trying to say is, do you wear black caps? You know, in the novel, your little pixies, your pixie cap, is it black or is your pixie cap white? Again, they were all looking at each other. There were quite a few people in this house, and they were looking at each other in a very puzzled way, and they simply didn't comprehend the meaning of black caps or white caps. They didn't think like that. They're just utterly confused. What do you mean, black caps or white caps? They didn't understand. So Gloria explained what these terms meant. What does being a pixie wearing a black cap, or being a pixie wearing a white cap, or being part of the Alliancy group or the Illumined Naughties group? She explained what these terms mean. And they were all quite interested and puzzled. And finally, the mother said, we don't know. We're not aware of there being two sides or two aspects to the family. If there are two aspects, we have no idea which aspect we are. So they were assuming that I was talking about the family, but Gloria, they were assuming that Gloria was talking about the family. But Gloria wasn't talking about the family. She was talking about two opposing polarity groups. As we, let's say in the truth community, individuals who read science fiction novels and novels that are titled Truth Seeker, that sort of thing, people who read those novels would see the black cap and the white cap. They assumed Gloria was talking about the family being split into white cap or black cap. And they said, we're not aware of there being two sides or two aspects to the family. If there are two aspects, because they are admitting here that they don't know everything about the family. There might be two aspects, but they have no idea which aspect they are. They don't know if they're wearing white caps or black caps. So Gloria said, all right, let me just ask you, are you good guys or are you bad guys? And they all looked at each other and they thought long and hard about this, really long and hard about this. And they had to really, truly think, because it seemed to be a question they'd never asked themselves. And then they said, we're the good guys. We're the good guys. Okay, so they said the event had started. Now, this was like a linear progression through the dream, because at first they were saying, we don't know when it's going to start. And then they said, it's started. Now, we were in this house, this huge house that seemed to be in some way reinforced against outside conditions. The windows were made of a special glass that can't be penetrated by falling rocks, bad weather, explosions, whatever. The roof seemed to be reinforced, and lots of people were coming in and gathering, more and more people. The mother was opening the door and letting more and more people in. So I'll talk about that in a minute. They said the event has started. It started. And they said, be on the lookout for very strange things happening. Very strange. And they didn't know what strange things would happen. It was all new to them, but they knew the event had started. And they said, I asked them, the Gloria asked them in the novel, what kind of strange things? And they said, changes in the laws of physics. They said to Gloria, it's good that that you are with us to witness this, because you have access to insight that that we don't have. Let me repeat this. They said to Gloria, It's good you're with us to witness this because you have access to insight that we don't have. And they were talking about Gloria's higher guidance system, which would be like the nine. That's what they were talking about. They don't have that. They don't have the higher guidance system. They don't have the nine. But because Gloria did, they were glad she was there to witness it because they wanted to know what the nine was saying. Have I actually mentioned the people? Yeah, yeah, that's right. I do mention that because that's important. So as you can see, this is an epic dream. You're probably thinking, what has this got to do with the banana competition? It is connected. It really is connected because the reasons these things are being put into play is because no one knows what the outcome of the banana competition will be. And because it's such a pivotal placement, the overlord structure are trying to hedge their bets and get stuff done now regarding where they want reality to go. And they don't want to have to rely on the banana competition, the banana position, as the only way to get there. So they're kind of giving themselves option B, C, D, and E. They're giving themselves other options. So yes, they want the banana position, but they're doing other things, and it is ultimately about reality itself within the third dimensional world in the novel. It's about reality in the novel because this is a very surreal novel. It is fantasy fiction with elements of sci-fi, elements of horror, as I have said before. So they said it to Gloria, it's good you're here to witness this because you have access to insight that we don't have. And they're talking about the nine, the same thing as the nine. Oh, we're recording, good. So Gloria looked out of the window and saw that it was raining outside. But this was very strange rain. People were walking, but they were slipping. They were slipping. And it was almost like the rain, when the rain fell on the ground, it created something slippery. Well, in the normal laws of physics, that doesn't happen unless it's incredibly cold and rain turns to ice very quickly. You could slip, but this wasn't ice and it wasn't freezing cold. It was normal, looked like normal rain, but they were slipping as soon as the rain hit the floor, the ground, and they were also acting like the rain was hurting them because if the rain went on their arm, they were going, oh, and like the rain was hurting them. And I was just Gloria was just watching out of the window. And when Gloria looked on the floor and saw like a zoom in close up of the raindrop hitting the ground, the raindrop gathered itself into like a bubble, like an acid bubble. When it touched the ground, it was bubbling up like, how can I explain it? Like you're pouring something corrosive onto the ground and it fizzes, if you know what I mean. That's what every raindrop was doing. And so after a while, Gloria could see all these corrosive, acidy bubbles everywhere. And so she was thinking, that's not normal rain. So it was kind of like acid rain. That's what she was thinking. And Gloria doesn't know anything about acid rain or if there is any such thing. Obviously, this is a fictional novel, and the only time, the only awareness that Gloria Love has of anything like this would be in fictional novels where some stories there can be rain that will hurt the inhabitants of that particular planet in that sci-fi novel. So Gloria's known about fantasy fiction type of stories that she used to read like years ago, but never in real in her world, in her domain, in her world. So people were screaming as well, like, because this rain was hurting them. And then they were putting up umbrellas. Now, the umbrellas were shielding them for a while, But a couple of people dropped their umbrella, and a couple of people, the rain kind of made an acid hole through their umbrella. But many others were safe under the umbrella. And if you follow my story videos, there is a video talking about the umbrella, which also came from a dream, which was an astral projection. When I asked with the 9 about, this was within the actual astral projection, what is the antidote? She was given a black umbrella, which the 9 have said is to do with the canopy of safety created by awake and aware people at 5th dimensional level and above. And this creates a geometry, a hexagonal geometry that shields the individuals in reality. And this is spoken about in my book, Diamond Codex and the Quartz Key. So the umbrella is very significant. So that was in the dream. But with these umbrellas, some people were dropping their umbrellas. Some people, there were holes going through the umbrellas. So what my interpretation is that some people are protected by the canopy and others are not, for whatever reason. Bearing in mind that this is a fictional novel, it's a fictional dream, and it's just a dream. Okay. Then Gloria saw 2 big trucks or tractor-like vehicles. They were kind of like a tractor or a plow. That's the kind of vehicle they were. And there were 2 of them coming in, and they were doing something to the ground to make it safe for people. So they were smoothing the ground out and sorting out all these little acidic bubbles. And I waved, Gloria Love waved to one of the drivers of the vehicles, and he looked in Gloria's eyes and he didn't wave back. He looked angry and he looked upset. Okay, and then on the television, so in this room that I was in, it was a very square room with lots of glass windows and a big sort of black roof, and there were lots of people there. Big screen on the television screen, and a reporter was saying freak weather reports are coming in from all over the world, experiencing weather that they've never had before. Now, this is a fictional novel. This is all to do with the fictional story. So in this particular fairy village, the fairy reporter is saying, we're getting freak weather reports from all over the village, experiencing weather that the village has never known before. And the mother said, when she heard this on the screen, it's started. It's started. And lots more people were turning up, and the mother and the daughter were opening the door, and these people were gathering in, and they were greeting them all. They were all friends of the mother and the daughter, and they all seemed like normal people, but there was something strange and odd about them. Gloria couldn't put her finger on what they were. Now, the mother and the daughter seemed very normal, and did not appear to have any energetics about them that Gloria would perceive as service to self. These other individuals were happy and smiling and very jovial, shaking hands and sitting down, and like they were acting as though it was Christmas, you know. They were acting like there's a big party going on. This is so exciting. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Yay. It was just a massive event, and they were all so excited about it. Now, I couldn't put my finger on, but some of the people, it was clear that Gloria could see within their energetic field a back personality. And what I mean by that, what Gloria could see is the front personality that they show to the world, the daytime personality. And then there's another personality, another persona that's locked away from the front personality. That back personality is not known to the majority of the people who had this kind of disassociation or fragmented split, this schism within them. Most of them didn't know about the back personality. They didn't know it existed. Some did know, so they were a bit more cohesive. But the back personality, what Gloria saw was what she would perceive as an operational overlord minion. What I mean by that is an overlord minion that takes place, that an overlord minion that in this back, the life of this back personality indulges in events, gatherings, ritualistic activity. And that was very dark, and that was very it's almost as though the front personality is the day-to-day personality and how they are and how they live and how they show themselves to the world. But the overall being of the person needs an outlet, needs to release something. This is not what a service to others person has. If they need to release something, a service to others person will go take an aromatherapy bath, or maybe they'll use alcohol, or maybe they'll have sex, or whatever, if they need to release. But that's somebody on the path to service to others, let's say. Someone polarized service to others would meditate to release. They would go into dream work. They would use crystals. They would walk in nature. That's how they would release this. It isn't pent up energy. An activated and polarized service to others individual doesn't need to release pent up energy, because the energy is all flowing and circular and spiraling, and they simply just follow their intuition about what they need to do within their reality to shift flow. There is no real release of something. People on the path to service to others who haven't quite worked with all trauma, but are certainly on that path, might need to go off and, oh, I need a couple of days, and they might go away somewhere, or come off their wonderful diet and eat something bad, or drink some alcohol, or, as I said, have sex, or whatever. That's still a service to others individual on the path. These souls needed to release a lot of pent up energy that was held and stored within them, and they couldn't flow it out like a polarized service to others individual. They had to release it, but they're not polarized service to self. They were on the path of that, and then how they release it is in a very dark way. And if I were to talk about this particular chapter of the novel, that would fall into the horror genre. So this is ritualistic, and this is dark horror type fiction. I think you probably are aware of what I'm trying to say. So there is a personality at the front, jovial, happy, smiling, and a back personality that is a complete difference, kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. So Jekyll is suppressed and out comes Hyde, and the back personality only comes out at certain times, and they all get together. So whenever there's it's time to release, or time to do whatever it is they need to do at certain times of the year, or for certain reasons, they all get together, and then they switch into this other personality, and then they just let it all go. And yeah, that would create a horror genre. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say. I mean, another way of looking at it within fiction would be the individual who is a werewolf. Let's say some werewolves are good, but let's say this is a negative werewolf. Or actually, from the perspective of these souls, it isn't even necessarily negative. It's on that polarity path. You couldn't call it that. It's more about the werewolf as a human is a normal human and just walking around and talking to everyone and completely normal. And then on the night of the full moon, they turn into a werewolf, and some of these werewolves go out and do bad things. And or let's say a vampire in fiction, in traditional fiction, would be perhaps let's say it was the kind of vampire that was human looking a lot of the time, and at certain times of the year they would turn into a vampire, and then when they become human again, they don't remember what they did when they were a vampire, and the werewolf doesn't remember what it did when it was a werewolf. So looking at fiction and that kind of vampire werewolf horror fiction, which is what we're talking about here, this channel and these videos are all about creative writing and really looking deeply into fiction of all genres, and that's the horror genre. So these individuals had this back personality, and the majority of them didn't know about it, and some did, and they were a bit more sort of tied up in a more cohesive way, and they were closer to service to self because they were aware of it and still exercised it, but it was more merged with the personality they were in the day. The ones that were predominantly there, so these are, if you will, if you look at the overlord structure, these are lower down in the structure. These are lower down in the sort of family. They're not the ones that make the decisions. They're the ones that just enjoy the ride of being part of the family, is the best way I could explain it really for this fictional novel. So the mother said when she heard on the television freak weather reports from all around the village, experiencing weather we've never had before, the mother said, "It's started." And in came all these people, and they were excited. They were excited, like they'd turned up for a Christmas holiday. And like, what's going on? I know, how's it going to happen? This kind of thing. And Gloria was very sort of just observing and looking at the strangeness and the difference and the fact that she hadn't really seen people like this before, and found it kind of fascinating, but also a bit I won't say scary, but Gloria was just a bit wary, cautious, and on guard, very much knowing she wasn't part of this, but perhaps learning something she hadn't known before about this particular branch of the family, and the fact that they didn't know whether they wore white caps or black caps, and the fact that they didn't know that there were potentially two factions, and the fact that they said after long thought we're the good guys. Anyway, all these individuals, these people were introduced to Gloria. They were very happy to see her. They were very friendly and fascinated that Gloria was a channel and able to communicate with her higher dimensional guidance. So Gloria asked again the mother, who was the head of the family, the head of the household, this thing that has started, you've just said, oh, it started. This thing that started, I know this seems really long, and it's like dreams don't normally go a lot along like this. So this is like an epic long dream with lots of images. And so when Gloria Love wakes up, she then it's sort of like a little package, because she could have been dreaming in this rapid pineal gland activation time for, hard to say, she could have been dreaming for in real linear time for 1 minute or 5 minutes or less than a minute or half an hour. I mean, it's hard to say. It could be hours through the night, but seems to be a small period of time. And then when Gloria Love awakens, she then needs to unpack that into linear time. It's like having a little package and then pulling it out so that it makes sense. So that's why the notes need to be taken as soon as you wake up. So if you have a dream that's very epic and you wake up a bit shell-shocked, you're naturally going to sit there and be like, oh, what was that? You know, what was that? And then focus and write it down if you want to analyze and utilize the dream as a tool for information and insight. Write it down, or get on your computer or your phone and record it so that you don't lose it, because it's very difficult to hold on to the memories of the dream as you go forward over the next few days, weeks in your life, trying to recall a dream. Sometimes the dream will stay with you for years and years and years. I can recall dreams I had when I was about 4 or 5 years old. But I still advise writing it down, because you can forget them. You can forget the dreams, or there might be just one bit of the dream you forget, and it's crucial to write everything down that you remember. So Gloria asked, this thing that started, it was created by your family, the elite ruling family, this elite group, and they all said yes. And so Gloria said, so no one knows how this is going to go. No one knows how this is going to play out. No, but they were so excited. See, Gloria was like concerned. Gloria was wanting more information. She wasn't feeling excited, but they thought it was great. So it's like Gloria is thinking that an unknown event that is going to cause freak weather across the village is not necessarily something to be excited about. So Gloria is on guard and cautious, but they thought it was fantastic. But if you look at the back personality that I was talking about, the horror genre of the book, the back personality, when they're releasing so much, they are enjoying being in that moment of release. They are enjoying being in the back personality. So even if they're not aware of the back personality, anything that could bring something similar to the energies within the back personality activity is going to cause excitement, and it's not joy, it's you know, it's almost like the kind of excitement where the dark magician in his castle would rub his hands with glee and go hee, this kind of thing. It was that kind of thing. It was like, yay, you know. And one thing Gloria did think of was, it's almost like they are trying to take their, let's call them parties. These are the events that they indulge in when they are in the back personality at these times of the year, releasing. It's almost like they're taking their parties and trying to bring it to the whole village. Let's put the whole village in a party and see what happens. It was kind of like that. That's kind of how it was. So Gloria asked again, is this the work of the Alliance or the Illumined Naughties? They all looked at one another, and again they said there's only one group. It's not two groups. It's not split like that. They don't understand these words, Alliance or Illumined Naughty. They wouldn't describe their elite family as either of those. They don't use those words, and they do not understand the concept of being one or the other. Okay, so then Gloria, outside the window, she thought, oh my goodness, she saw huge fish of different colors and shapes flying slowly. Well, actually, they were swimming, but there was no water. They were swimming in the air. They were different colors and shapes. They were the weirdest fish that Gloria had ever seen. Big, big fish. Some had like huge, great whiskers and big lips, and others were small and long and thin. They were just the strangest fish. And they were swimming in the air. and breathing the air. There was no water. They were all swimming past the window, swimming in the air and breathing in the air. So Gloria asked, what's happening? What is happening? And they replied, everything is becoming displaced. The laws of reality are going topsy-turvy. And they were really excited. This is when Gloria started to feel a little bit alarmed and somewhat afraid by this time. Like, why are there fish out of the water? And Gloria did think when she woke up, fish out of water, as in she is the fish out of water amongst this group. That's one thing. Why are there fish out of water, breathing in the air, swimming in the air? That's against the laws of physics. That can't happen. Fish don't breathe out of the sea, out of the water. They need water to breathe. Why are they breathing in the air? And why are they swimming in the air? When if a fish was in the air, it would fall to the ground. What's happened to gravity? How are they staying upwards? You know, all of these things. So they were not afraid. The people were very excited. They saw this displacement of the laws of reality and the laws of physics. They thought it was just great and highly interesting and very what is there yet more to come? Sorry, my neighbour's dogs are out for their walk and they're all barking. I don't know if you can hear them or not. She's got 3 gorgeous dogs. The laws of reality going topsy-turvy. Yes, they were all excited. And Gloria did start to feel a little bit worried and somewhat, I won't say afraid, because I don't think Gloria felt fear at that time. But what she felt was like, this is really weird. And then the mother said, here come the waters. Here come the waters. And at that point, Gloria looked out of the window and a huge tidal wave engulfed the house, went right over the top of the house, and the whole house was completely underwater. And now the fish were swimming in the water because the water was everywhere. Gloria could see the water out of the window. The TV was still on, the power was still on, the house was completely unharmed, but we were now underwater. The Gloria was worried by this time. The mother looked up to the roof and said, I think the house will hold. The roof is reinforced steel and all the windows are built to keep water out. What worried me was when she said, I think the house will hold. She wasn't 100% sure that the house would hold because I assume the house had never been underwater before, but it was built to be so. And everybody was just thinking this was great fun. Gloria was in this fictional story. Gloria was getting a bit more worried, but she did think to herself, because she wrote this down, thank goodness I'm here in this house, because she thought if I wasn't in the house, I would be underwater. So thank goodness I'm in this house. But then she started thinking about her family. Are her family okay? She was thinking about her cat. Is her cat okay? And she had her little dog with her. Gloria Love has a little dog. The dog was with her in the house. But then, as she started to just look out the window and see this water everywhere, she started to become really worried and really concerned. And that is when she started to feel afraid. And so she just started instantly to pray to her higher guidance system or to the universal galactic Christ energies, whoever is listening. When you get to that point of, any minute now, this house may not hold and we all won't survive. At that moment, when you think your survival is about to go, you will pray to whichever higher force you can. So Gloria said, please help, please help me, please help me. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. In the fictional novel, that's what she was saying, please help me. And because Gloria believed the dream was real, her energy would have been in earnest She would have been asking with a pure heart, please help me. And Gloria is not the kind of person that prays and asks for assistance that often, because she realizes that when you do ask for assistance, you for her specifically, she would wait until she really needs the assistance. She tries to navigate through her reality in the village without higher dimensional assistance as much as she can, because she wants to do this herself, but sometimes she feels she can't. And this was one of those moments. Please help me, please help me. Now, there was a dualistic issue going on at this point, because prior to that, Gloria didn't realize she had her dog with her. The dog wasn't in the dream. But when all the waters came over the house and the house was under the water, her little dog, she's got this little dog, this little black dog, her dog was in the dream with her all of a sudden. Now, what was actually happening is Gloria's dog in her real life, in the village, in the story, sleeps on her bed. And there seems to be a telepathic energy between her and her little dog, because if ever she's had any emotional feelings that are strong at night when everyone's asleep, at that time her little dog comes over to her, wakes up and starts wagging her little tail. Her little dog's only a puppy, 9 months, and licks her all over her face. And sometimes that wakes Gloria up, but because Gloria's used to that happening, sometimes Gloria stays in the dream, but she's aware that the puppy is licking her face and licking her neck, and it's only small, so the puppy can sort of sit on her head and next to her head and by her face. And because it happens such a lot, Gloria is aware of where the puppy is, can keep the puppy safe at night on the bed and still be in the dream. Now, I wouldn't suggest you try this at home, but if you have got to the point where you are able to sit within the dualistic aspect of dream time and physical, you can feel and know the physical body and the physical world and the dream world and the dream body simultaneously. So this is bilocation. This is dream time bilocation, which occurs first as a precursor to eventually physical bilocation. But in the first stages, it occurs in an etheric form, dream time and the physical. And so at this moment, when Gloria is feeling this desperation and this desperate plea, I don't want to die, please help me, please help me. Her puppy's all over her face, licking her, but she's still in the dream. And at that time, Gloria Love's guidance system says to her, you are in a dream. You are dreaming. It's not real. So she's got this puppy next to her in the dream, just looking up at her. She's sat in a chair in the room with all these people, water all over the whole house. She's aware of the physical body and the puppy licking her face, and then the higher guidance saying, you're in a dream, you're dreaming. So she's got three awarenesses. So there's the trifurcation, the Trinity split. You can be aware of the physical body, the dream body, and the higher dimensional aspect at the same time. This is all part of the spiritual awakening, enlightenment, the cellular memory cascade, ascension. You will all go through this when you're on this path in your own unique way. So Gloria says, really? I'm in a dream. So she's looking around and looking at the water, seeing the water all up this window and over, and think, is this a dream? Because it's so real. She can see the house, the windows, the people, her dog, even though her dog in real life is licking her face and she knows that that's the real dog, she's still in the dream. She's still asleep. So, yeah. So, really, am I in a dream? Are you sure? Are you sure? And they said again, you are dreaming. You are in a dream. And so she said, in that case, I will wake myself up, because I don't like this dream. I don't like being underwater. I want to get out of it. And I want to see for myself that what you're saying is true. So she tried to find her physical eyes. So although she had this dog, her dog, licking her, she couldn't find her eyes or feel her eyes, because when she was trying to focus on her eyes, all she could focus on were the dream eyes. and her dream eyes were open and still in the room. And these people looking at her like, what's she doing? And the water over the house, and feeling like she's about to just be engulfed by this tidal wave, and feeling, and several attempts to find her eyes, because she thought, if I can feel my physical eyes, I can pull them open, even though her dog was licking her. And obviously her dog was feeling her feeling of despair and concern and praying, because this is a telepathic little dog, especially in sleeping space. And anyone who is spiritually aware and psychic and has a very close soul bond with their dog, if you sleep in the same space as your dog, you will have found times where your dream energy comes together. The dog will sense when you're having a bad dream. You will know if your dog is having a bad dream. You are in sacred space, which is why dogs want to sleep with their owners, because the sleep space becomes collective. So you can have mother, father and dog, or, you know, man, woman and child, or a couple, regardless of who they are, and their children or their dogs or their cats. The sleep space becomes collective, and you become telepathic in that moment, and you support one another through sleep. And this is why animals, not all animals, but some animals, especially dogs, sleep in a pile. They all go into a collective dream together. They all go astral projecting together. Cats do the same. So that's a whole other issue. But so she's got this duality, Gloria. The dog is licking her. She can feel the dog licking her. She can sense the dog's happiness, that she's having these feelings, trying to wake her up or say hello or whatever puppy's trying to do. And she's desperately trying to find her eyes. And each time she just finds the dream eyes, and she's back in the dream, and there's the window and there's the water. And finally, she felt her physical eyes and could open them. And then she's in the room. Now, funnily enough, by that time, her puppy had settled down, so she could sort of say hello and good morning, and puppy went back to sleep. And then now the first thought Gloria Love had was, wow, it was a dream. They were right. So the first thought was, there was still a part of her doubting that they were right when they said you're dreaming, because dreams can be so real within the energetic field within the brain. So when she woke up, her first thought was, it was a dream. Such a relief, thank goodness that wasn't real. So I've done a lot here, as in I'm telling you about the kinds of dreams we can have when we go through the spiritual awakening and the cellular memory cascade, and the elements of that which are potentially messages from individuals on a different polarity path, and what potentially they may be thinking or doing, however that occurs, and how this is connected to what is playing out in the third dimension, including the banana competition. But that's the third dimensional point of all this other larger play out in the novel. So I will reiterate again, it's important not to take any of this literally. There are many metaphors here. Being engulfed with water can be being engulfed with emotion. Water being a very fluid medium. So fluidity of flow, plasma, higher activation, the trinity of knowing the physical body, the dream body, and the higher dimensional dream voice, higher guidance system, and coming in with the truth. So you have one aspect of the subconscious believing it's real, and the other aspect saying, you're in a dream. Are you sure you're in a dream? Oh, okay. So there's two aspects within. And this is the difference between the dream characters. We can have a dualistic aspect, a service to others individual. We can have the holistic physical self, and it's not really a back personality, it's more of a higher personality, a higher self aspect, and we cannot know what the other is feeling. So in this instance, Gloria Love's subconscious thinks she's in a house that's engulfed with water, surrounded by people. The higher guidance aspect didn't know she was worried. She then feels worried and then very afraid and is praying. The higher guidance comes in to say you're in a dream. So you have this dualistic aspect that you are going through this alchemy state with, that you are merging with. This is how deep the consciousness is. And with these service to self individuals, instead of the holistic movement, it is a fragmented, as in, I'm not aware of that character. I'm not aware of this group. I didn't know that there were bad guys and good guys. I'll have a really hard think. Yeah, I'm a good guy. Of course I am. So there is a fragmentation, there is a distortion, there is a dissociation from what is true and what is real. There is seeing reality in a very, very different way to how the service to others individuals will see it. And within that, you have individuals on the path to polarizing as service to others, individuals on the path to polarizing as service to self. So they have their journey. And when you see it from the perspective of that dream character, well, I'm the good guy. We're the good guys. This is where they're coming from. It isn't seen as black and white, or, good and evil, or alliancey and illumined naughty. It isn't seen that way in this dream character presentation, and take it as you will. Did Gloria Love actually pick up something that these individuals feel and are? Did she in some way make a visit to this faction and communicate with some of the minions there? Or is this Gloria Love's own thought working things out? Or is it all metaphor? Again, this is so complex, and it's such a epic dream. And I did about releasing this actually in its entirety. I did actually speak about the fish in a few social media posts, but I wasn't sure. But then with the whole competition thing and the fact that this is this point, this pivotal point within the third dimension, and that there's so much else to it, I thought the dream is important to bring forward as well for this particular storyline, because we need to work out which option within the banana competition is going into the novel. Obviously, there are multiple books, multiple novels, and each storyline is ready to play out. So from that perspective, there are 4 storylines, and they can be put into 4 different novels with similar endings that play out in different ways. But which one are we going to put in our novel that we are going to read? So it's important not to take any of this literally. But what I did feel from this, and I did speak to the 9, I believe one of the clues in this dream that Gloria had to be they didn't know how this would occur. So that, I think, is a major clue. Some kind of experiment or event or something has been put into motion, and they don't know the outcome. That is exactly how they are feeling about the banana competition as well. They don't know the outcome. So they're putting something into motion for the banana competition to ensure the outcome they want, but they don't know if what they're putting into place will be enough to grant them the outcome that they want. And then there's the larger aspect of the whole village-wide situation and what they want from reality they're putting into place, but they don't know how reality will actually turn out. They are unknown now, and this is new for the service to others factions, because for many, 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 many years they have put something into motion and pretty much guaranteed the outcome. Everything kind of changed in 2016 with the wild card, when Stormfire got through that, got in, when the original visual had been Hilarion the elf, that had been the original visual, and they were very, very sure that that would manifest. There wasn't really any doubt, but because of the wild card, Stormfire was that wild card. Now you have a wild card scenario. That's what this is. And if you want to know more about the wild card, I've done stories all about the wild card and explaining what the wild card actually is when you're looking at probability fields. We are now in wild card territory. Everything's a wild card, and it's not just a wild card for service to others. In fact, if anything, the individuals who are close to polarization of service to others and have polarized don't really have wild cards, because they're in a state of manifestation of their reality. They're not really in a state of what is unknown. They are known. They know their reality. They are in that 0 point. They don't need to be in a space of what is unknown. They are standing within what is known. So they don't have a wild card scenario. The closer one is to service to others polarization. If you're further back but still on that path, then you will see a wild card reality, and that will be a good thing. But this is what happens at planetary end times and planetary completion. But from the service to self point of view, this is wild card territory from the banana competition and beyond that. So I believe one of the main clues is that they didn't know how this would occur. And I believe my interpretation is that that is how they are feeling. One step further, they didn't even know if they wore black caps or wore white caps. So is there an element to the faction at the sort of minion level that don't know if they're white caps or black caps? Or might they think they're white caps when they're really being orchestrated by black? Might they even believe they're black when really they're white? I mean, who knows? As I've said, it's not all black and white. And that analogy is so polarized, it's so opposite spectrum, the black cap and the white cap, that from this dream, it appears that that's not necessarily a helpful analogy when there are so many nuances, shades of gray, and the spectrum of the rainbow. It's not exactly a rainbow in service to self, it is more shades of gray, but that is where we are, really. It's more shades of gray. So that analogy isn't exactly that helpful in the novel. So something has been set in motion. They don't know how this will play out, and that's the banana competition, and it is bigger than the banana competition. The banana competition is simply the point in third dimension where this begins to play out, and all of these consequences, that's the first domino. And when that domino falls, whether it's storyline 1, 2, 3, or 4, the domino falls. Whether the banana competition goes ahead, the domino falls. If the banana competition doesn't go ahead, that's a domino as well. Camelina, that's a domino. Stormfire, that's a domino. And someone else at the last minute, that's a domino. They're all the beginning of consequences. So I did actually speak to the 9, and I asked if they would comment on this whole thing, the banana competition, and if they could also on the dream. So this is what the 9 said. The competition, let me just, we're still recording. The competition of which you speak is a significant marker point, a marker point for change. The repercussions of whichever outcome plays out in your reality timeline will lead to the splitting of the worlds into 3, the trifurcation, the movement into the 3 Americas. Land boundaries changed, states split into sections, new state boundary lines, new states entirely. some declared as US domain states miles and miles away from the US domain, including parts of the UK domain and other significant places in the Germanic domain, and through pockets of the European domain, the Australiano domain, the South Africano domain, and the Canadian domain. New names given to these new domains. More than one top banana, with he you call Stormfire leading the charge brigade. Land movements, as well as boundary lines. This appears as a natural occurrence, and so too it is that from the higher perspective. For much is ordained as fate or destiny, whilst so too being the wizardry at novice level attempted by those who believe they are masters. Okay, so I looked at when they said Stormfire leading the charge brigade. I thought, well, what is a charge brigade? So I Googled charge brigade and came up with the Charge of the Light Brigade, which was an action taken by Mrs. Millie Terry back in the 25th of October, which is 4 days from now. But that was in 1854. It's the only thing that came up on Google. So I said, is this what you mean? Is this the kind of thing you mean? Like the Charge of the Light Brigade? And the 9 replied, on a much larger scale, yes. So I said, is this physical, etheric, astral, higher dimensional, or does it play out in cyberspace? And they replied, all of these. So I said, is this the outcome, regardless of which of the scenarios play out? Option 1, 2, 3, or 4 within the banana competition? And they replied, yes, with different catalysts and different playouts. But the splitting of the lands of America is the outcome. So I said, will all countries, all domains split in this way? And the 9 replied, the probability is there, but outside the US, it is more about unifying with the US flag that stands for unification rather than globalization. I then said, when you speak about leading the charge brigade, are you talking about a fictional battle in the novel? And they replied, we are, but in various different forms. It is partly seen, partly unseen, seen by some and not by others. This has already begun upon your planet. So they're talking about the fictional battle in the novel, playing out in different forms, partly seen, partly unseen, seen by some, not seen by others. This has already begun. So I said, are you saying we might be in a state of battle within the fictional novel that some people do not recognize and believe? So my question is, are we already in the novel where the characters are in a fairy battle and some of the fairies don't even see it? And the 9 replied, yes, and vice versa, so too. So I asked them, are you saying that we are not in a state of battle in the fictional novel? We are not in a fairy battle, and others believe that we are, or will believe that we are? And they said, indeed, and this shall play out simultaneously, for this is the most accurate truth. So they're saying that we're not in a state of fairy battle. And the most accurate truth is that we are not in a state of fairy battle in the novel. But they're also saying that we are in a state of fairy battle that others don't recognize. So I feel what the 9 is saying is we're in a state of battle on one level and not on another. And as a spiritual individual, we need to integrate this and work out where these perspectives are. We can hold the perspective that we are in a battle in the fictional novel, and we can hold the perspective that no, we are not, and find out where those perspectives are. And only multidimensional thinking individuals can do this. If you're thinking in a linear sense, you aren't going to be able to access those higher points of perspective. So the 9 go on to say, this is a destined marker point for the awakening and harvest within your 3rd dimension as polarity integrates and raises in frequency. That which is the most focus of import for the starseed is one's spiritual and ascension journey. I'll repeat that. That which is the most focus of import for the starseed is one's spiritual and ascension journey. We are the white-winged collective consciousness of 9. So I'm going to leave this video here. If you would like me to come back and speak more about this and speak more about what the 9 are saying here, the land boundaries changed, states being split, or if you have any insight yourself, or if you have any opinions on the dream, you can email me on magenta.pixie@yahoo.com. You can send me an email, and I will look at your emails and potentially do another video. And I'd just like to say before I go that I'm closing my Telegram group down on Samhain at the end of the month. This was something I've known that I would do for a long time, but I wasn't sure when. And then I had the guidance from the 9 a few weeks ago to close the group down. So our group has now migrated over to Truth Social. So we are on Truth Social. Not everyone from the Telegram group has migrated yet, but many have. And our group is called the Aurora Network. And so if you'd like to join the Aurora Network on Truth Social, you are more than welcome. I am on there most days, and everyone is having a chat. It's not run like a long continuous chat like Telegram. It is more like sort of a cross between MeWe and Facebook, let's say. That's more how it's set up, but you can join there. If you go to my website, magentapixie.com, you will see a link to our Aurora Network on Truth Social. You're more than welcome to join. And if you want to, rather than emailing me, if you want to ask questions about this video, anything else you'd like me to ask the 9, or any insights you have about any of this information, please do make a post. Also, I have now got an account on the site Buy Me a Coffee. So on that site, you can support me by making a donation, buying me a coffee, and one coffee is $1. You only need to buy one coffee one time, just $1, and you will then receive written updates. That's how I'm doing things at the moment. This may well change, but right now I'm putting out written updates of the story. So little snippets of the story, chapters of the story are being posted to all supporters that have ever supported me on Buy Me a Coffee, with, you know, whether it's just one cup of coffee for $1, everybody then gets these written stories. That's how I'm doing it for now. But I also have a membership section, and all of this occurred because people were asking, actually, for me to do this. It just sort of flowed, and I followed what other people were suggesting. So I'm so grateful for the support. So very, very appreciative. and means so much, as I have said on the Buy Me a Coffee site. I have a membership on there, and so with the membership, I'm doing things a bit differently. Anyone who subscribes to the membership, they can ask a question, and I am responding to those questions in audio as audio posts. So once you become a member, you'll be able to see all the audio posts that have already been done. That section of Buy Me a Coffee is called Dear Pixie, the Dear Pixie membership. This is a story site, so everything on there is about the novel. We're talking about fairies, dragons, gnomes, Stormfire, and we also are talking about overlords and everything within the village. This is a continuation of the novel, but if you would like a more personalized answer or response to your question, if you become a member, you can ask a question and then I will do an audio post. And I am doing my best to respond to every question. I don't know whether I'll be able to do that always, but that is my aim. And I would say that working this way is a closer work with my material and with the 9. So if you would like to receive these audios, it's more of a closer teaching, similar to what I've done in this video, but I'm going to be doing these sort of on a more personalized level. So if you're interested, you can go down and have a check out of Buy Me a Coffee, and that is also linked on my website, magentapixie.com. So I'd just like to say thank you for listening to this story update, and I will be back with more stories. And thank you all for listening. Love you all. Thank you. Bye.